541 ALF test questions and answers with complete solutions 100% correct rated. A plus. Can live in staff or their family members sleep in a residence room if the room is shared and the facility is not over capacity? Yoi false. Are facilities required to maintain emergency supplies, including a 3-day supply of food and 2 gallons of water per person? Yoi true. Do newly hired staff have 30 days to provide a health provider UROS statement based on a recent exam, confirming they have no symptoms of communicable diseases like tuberculosis? Heavy check mark true. Repeat of previous question. Are new staff allowed 30 days to submit proof from a healthcare provider showing they are free of communicable disease symptoms, including TB? Yoi true. Does the Florida Building Code require at least 60 square feet of usable space per person in a shared room? Yoi true. Is a minimum of 80 square feet of usable floor space required per person in a private ROM under Florida Building Code? Yoi true. Must income from residents be documented by name, and must other income sources like daycare or interest be recorded separately? Yoi true. When an administrator completes their 12 hours of required continuing education every 2 years, what should be done with their completion? 1/4. Certificates? Yoi. They must be kept on file as proof of compliance. There is no requirement to submit these certificates to state agencies. Certificates are kept in the administrator's employee file along with their administrator license. Answers heavy check mark true. Applications shall be postmarked or hand delivered to the agency a minimum of 60 days prior to the expiration date, appearing on the currently held license. Answers heavy check mark true. Applications shall be postmarked or hand delivered to the agency a minimum of 90 days prior to the expiration date, appearing on the currently held license. Answers heavy check mark true. Contracts shall specifically describe the services the staffing agency or contracto will be providing to residents. Answers heavy check mark true. A fire safety inspection must complete it every year and maintain the last 2 years. Answers heavy check mark true. The facility shall provide a refund to the resident or responsible party within 45 days after the transfer, discharge, or death of the resident. Answers heavy check mark true. The facility shall provide a refund to the resident or responsible party within 15 days after the transfer, discharge, or death of the resident. Answers heavy check mark false. How many days' notice must a licensee give AHCA if they will be selling their facility? Answers heavy check mark 60 days prior to transfer. Any change in directions for use of a medication for which the facility is providing assistance with self-administration of medication must be accompanied by a written medication order issued and signed by the residents. Healthcare provider. Unlicensed persons can implement changes without first obtaining a written order. To ease this process, a fax copy of the order is acceptable. Answers heavy check mark false. 2/4. Personnel records F or each staff member shall contain, at a minimum, a copy of the original employment application with references furnished and verification of freedom from communicable disease, including tuberculosis. Answers heavy check mark true. Facilities may offer 2 servings milk or milk equivalent. Answers heavy check mark true. Facilities may not serve a milk equivalent as a replacement for the required 2 servings of milk. Answers heavy check mark false. A facility can have a Class 3 violation but cannot have any Class 1 or 2 violations among other requirements. Answers heavy check mark true. In order for existing facilities to receive an ECC license, they must have no Class 3 violations. Answers heavy check mark false. Types of activities should include volunteerism, sedentary, formal, scheduled, and competitive without consideration of TE residence limitations in order to ensure comprehensive program. Answers heavy check mark, false. Tailoring resident care to the resident's needs and wishes. Answers heavy check mark. The definition of resident-centered care is any new facility with 9 or more beds must be equipped with an automatic fire sprinkler system. Answers heavy check mark. True. Usable floor space cannot include closets and bathrooms. Answers heavy check mark. True. A quarter cup of cottage cheese may be substituted for 1 ounce meat. Answers heavy check mark. True. Successful completion of the assisted living facility core training is not a prerequisite for the initial 4-hour ECC training. Answers heavy check mark. False. 3/4. Successful completion of the assisted living facility core training is a prerequisite for the initial 4-hour ECC training. Answers heavy check mark. True. You. SLI needed. The provider is responsible for monitoring the continued appropriateness of placement of a resident in the home. Answers heavy check mark. True. Hospice patients don't need an interdisciplinary care plan or other documentation that the resident is a hospice patient. Answers heavy check mark. False. All direct care staff providing care to residents in an extended congregate care program must complete at least 2 hours of in-service training provided by the facility administrator or ECC supervisor within 6 months of beginning employment in the facility. Answers heavy check mark. True. If the facility advertises that it provides special care for persons with Alzheimer's disease or related disorders, a copy of all such facility advertisements. Answers heavy check mark. True. Facility records should include. Answers heavy check mark. A grievance procedure for receiving and responding to resident complaints and recommendations. Any new facility with 9 or more beds must be equipped with an automatic fire sprinkler system. Answers heavy check mark. True. The facility is not required to make the daily work schedules for direct care staff available up request to residents or representatives that are specific to the resident's care. Answers heavy check mark. False. Facility records should include. Select 1. A. The facility's liability insurance policy. B. A copy of the surety bond currently in effect as required by Rule 58A-5.021. FAC. AOC. The admission package presented to new or prospective residents, less the residence contract. D. If the facility advertises that it provides special care for persons with Alzheimer's disease or related disorders, a copy of all such facility advertisement powered by TCPDF, www.tcpdf.org/4.